I'm Joy. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to have a story time on the time that the psychic tried to put a spell on me. So I got a lot of requests for this video. So y'all know I like to jump right into it. So yeah. Around this time, I was in college, and I think I was out. I had just got out of school, and I was going home. But on my way home, there was this sign like a free hand reading, or it was a cheap hand reading, or something like that. And I was on the phone with my friend who lived out of state, and I was telling him like, "Hey, I'm gonna stop and give me a reading. That sounds interesting, you know." And so he's like, no, don't mess with that. You know, my mom and them, they always told me do not mess with that. And so I'm like, why? You know, if they're telling me not to mess with it, I'm kind of curious. I want to know why. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go do it right now. So I get out the car, I park, and I knock on the door, and nobody answers. So I'm like, well, you know, nobody answers, so I'm going to go. Right when I was leaving, a little bitty Indian woman, or what, Romanian or whatever she was, she is like kind of like she just appeared out of nowhere, and she's just like, "Would you like a reading?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so she's like, "Well, you need to hang up your phone because it's confidential." And I'm like, "Okay." I tell him like, "Okay, I'm gonna hang up," but I didn't really hang up. I just put my phone in my scrub pocket. And so we walk into the house or whatever, and she's like, you know, she sits down or whatever. But what was kind of off to me is because it didn't bring any kind of excitement to me. I'm just like, okay, this is like kind of dull, you know? Like, she didn't have any incense or nothing. Like, the vibe that she gave off, I just wasn't feeling like that. But I was already there, so I went along with it. And so, you know, she gets asking me these questions or whatever. Somebody close to you is jealous of you, and, you know, they put this spell on you. So you're gonna have to give me a picture of you so I can get it off. And I'm like, what? Somebody put a spell on me? And she's like, yeah, there's these girls around you that are really jealous of you, and they're always gossiping. And I'm like, you're right, it is some girls around me that's jealous of me. But you know what I learned is that they say really general stuff. Like, you know, like the stuff that they say could pertain to anybody. But of course, back then, I didn't realize that. So I was kind of naive. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I looked in my wallet, and I'm looking for a picture. And so even though the vibe was kind of like off, like with her saying stuff like that, it kind of like made me fall into her trap, I would say, you know? So the only picture that I had of me was one of me, my son, and my son's dad. That's the only picture that I had. So I gave it to her, and she kept it or whatever. And she's like, okay, I'll be in contact with you, you know, whenever I start working and everything. And I'm just so naive and gullible. I'm just like, okay. So I tell my friend, you know, and he's like, man, you better get your picture from her. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm telling him what she said. And so he's like, I don't know, you know, just don't give her a picture of me. And so I want to say literally 5 days later, like, I almost like messed up my school. I lost my job. And not only that, my son's dad, me and him had like a small argument. Like, it was like one of the most pettiest arguments that we've ever had. But he ended up leaving. Like, he left the house, and like he didn't come back. So I'm like, what the hell? You know, like, all this stuff went bad. Not even, like, within, I want to say 5 to 6 days, all this stuff happened. And I just got like really depressed. I was so depressed. Like, my house was dark. Like, I just wasn't motivated or nothing. I was just like in a dark space. And so I was so depressed that I started like looking for churches to go to get prayer. that's how depressed I was. And I'm like, damn, like, you know, I'm like, what's going on? Because I mean, I don't feel like myself. I didn't feel like myself. And so I found this non-denominational church to go to. And I had explained to the pastor what was going on, and they had, you know, spoken tongue and prayed or whatever. And I didn't feel anything. Like, I did not feel any different. And I'm just like, look, that's not strong enough for me. I didn't know what I needed or what I was looking for, but I knew that that church that I went to, that wasn't it. So I had called my cousin on the phone, and I had explained to her like everything that was happening or whatever, and she referred me to who is now my godmother. So I had ended up calling her up on the phone, and I'm like, you know, explaining to her everything that's happening or whatever. And she's like, yeah, you know, come over here and, you know, like we can, you know, talk, whatever. And so when I went over, she's, you know, like drinking wine or whatever. And I stepped in. Now, mind you, we had never had like a personal conversation before. So I step in, and she's like, there's somebody that is, you know, like some kind of male spirit or energy that is like walking with you, or that is like protecting you or watching over you, so to say. And so I'm like, you know, and she's like, somebody close to you. Did someone close to you die, you know, recently, or, you know, at all? And I'm like, yeah, well, the last person that had died close to me that was a male was my uncle. And that was a few years ago then. I mean, we were close, but we weren't, you know, like that close. So before I could even say anything, she's like, your dad. Now, my dad was murdered when I was in 4th grade. And so when she said that, I like immediately like got chills and everything, because I had never told her that, you know, and there's no way, I didn't tell her that, so how could she have known? So I'm like, oh my God, you know. And so we sat down and we talked or whatever, and so I explained to her everything, and she has these coconuts and like these scents and everything, so she's like, you know, talking to the spirits and everything, and you know, she tells me like, yeah, the psychic lady did do something to you or whatever. You know, she tried to, you know, send bad energy my way or whatever. And so I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go fight. So my godmother's like, no, you know, don't go, you know, messing with her. It's not nothing that can't be fixed or whatever. So long story short, I, you know, had to do a cleanse, and I had to take a special kind of bath and all kind of stuff like that. But eventually I started to feel better, and you know, things started to turn around for me. But like those 7 days prior to me going to see that psychic lady, I mean, it was so bad. Like my everything was like just going down. My school, my relationship, everything had just like gone downhill. I had lost my job. Like, I was just depressed. Like, my house was just dark. I wanted to move so bad. Everything was so dark. But then I had set an appointment with my godmother to get my first reading from her. And y'all, I'll do a separate video to that if y'all want to know about that. But, I mean, it was like, it was crazy, because she was telling me stuff that, like, nobody knew. And from there, I kind of, like, walked into spirituality, because I felt like it kind of made me dig deeper, you know, and question more. So with that whole situation that happened with me seeing the psychic, it made me kind of question more, and it made me research more, and that's what kind of led me to being spiritual. I learned to not depend on others for answers. I learned to look within instead of, you know, going to seek answers from somebody else. You know, we all are capable of being, of connecting and getting in tune and receiving information. If we get ourselves in tune and we higher our vibrations, then we all are capable of that. And I would encourage everybody else to try to, if you're into that kind of stuff, you know, try to get your vibrations up and question everything. Like, don't just take what someone tell you and run with it. You know, all the questions that you have, you're capable of answering them yourself, rather than, you know, going and paying somebody a lot of money to answer questions about you and they don't even know you. You know, so that's kind of what I took out of that situation. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Again, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Also, hit that subscribe button. If you guys have any other story times that you all want to hear, drop them in the comment section below. Also, you can message me on Instagram. I do message back. My Instagram will be in the description box. I'm also going to add my Patreon to the description box, where I will have more information on stuff like how to start businesses, and other like motivational information, as such as hiring your vibrations and just making lifestyle changes to better yourself. So yeah, definitely want to look into that. And yeah, I'll